Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Source of Information, the place where you get reliable information regarding Medicare, Social Security, and a lot of other benefits. What I would like to start talking to you guys about today is, um, you know, I receive a few phone calls during the week. Um, People trying to figure out whether you are going. Excuse me, I don't know what's going on. This whether you are going to start receiving an increase for 2024. For those of you that's whether this is the first time you're listening to Source of Information, last year we predicted that you would be getting a sizable increase in your Social Security benefits. And at first, we predicted it would be about 10%, because just to give you a history of it, normally this is something that's based on the cost of living. So if the cost of living has increased, for example, for 2023, I believe 2022, you had a 5.7 increase, no, 4.9% increase, and the 4.9% increase that you receive, you had lost 40% of that by the middle of the year. So as the inflation was continued to increase, the October last year, the increase, we got word that it won't be 10% as we had predicted, but it came very close at 8.7%. So everyone started the year with 8.7% increase, whether you were receiving Social Security benefits, SSI, or disability, even veteran benefits. So everybody across the board had an increase. Just to give you some more information to back up this so you could better understand this, when you started the year, your buying power had decreased roughly by 8.7%. So what they have done is in October, they predicted that this is where, well, the inflation at that time was around was around 9% and was on its way down. So by October 13th of last year, they came out and said, okay, we're going to increase everybody. We're going to give you an increase of 8.7%. But this year, the inflation continued to go down. The last estimate that they came out with, it was 3.7%. So everybody was wondering whether they will be receiving an increase this year. My prediction is that you will not receive an increase this year. Next year, sorry. You will not receive an increase next year. Because the calculation, when you calculate what you have received in the past 2 years, is roughly about 15% of increase you received last year for the past 2 years. Because of that, this year, the fact that the inflation is on its way down. Now, a lot of economists have predicted that by now we had hoped that we would get to the 2% target that the feds are trying to get to. However, a few months, the month before last, it was down to 3.3. It went back up to 3.7. So any indication? So what we're hoping is that it continues to go down for this for it gets to 2.2 or 2%, where the feds are targeting, and so that we could go back to a normal life, start to see the economy rebound and stock market rebound and all the great stuff. So now you might ask yourself, what's the reason that he's giving us that information, and what value does it have for us? Well, when the inflation affect everything that you do, the price of food has increased, gasoline has increased, so it impacts your your um your buying power. I was talking to my daughter. Actually, she's in Orlando now in school, and she was telling me how when she goes to buy food, and she hardly can buy food because everything costs so much. And I was telling her, "Welcome to my world." And that's something that we've been facing for the past 2 years, and seeing the increase in food, increasing in gasoline, increase in rent, for example, for a lot of you, and some of us seen an increase in our mortgage rate. So mortgage rate has gone increasingly up, and in order to slow down the market. So we are not an economist, but the main purpose of doing this is to bring you the information so that you are aware of what's going on and how it impact your Social Security benefits. 954-667-4885, 954-667-4885. That's my number. I'm at the studio live, and you could call me on 305-945-1580, 305-945-1580. At the beginning of the show, it seemed like I was nervous. I don't know why. Maybe I'm still on vacation, but nevertheless, we are back. And so that's the information we're starting with for you. We don't think that you'll be receiving an increase coming up this year. Now, for those of you that this whole idea of Social Security retirement benefits and Medicare is new to you, well, welcome. This is a place where you could get the true information, the reliable information regarding these type of benefits, and what can you do. Now, I want to talk about a little bit about early retirement, and we'll get into probably about SSI, how you could use SSI to supplement your income. Personally, I think the generation that's coming into retirement benefits right now, you guys probably will not be benefiting SSI because already your income will exceed the requirement for SSI. But we'll get into it in any event, so that they may be a small percentage. They may be eligible to receive SSI. And for that small amount, we hope to pass that information on to you. Now, for those of you that takes early retirement, the minute that you apply for early retirement, when you reach the age of 65, automatically you don't have to do anything to apply for Medicare. Automatically they will send you the Medicare card. So I don't want you to start worrying about it, whether you're going to get a Medicare card at age of 65 or do you have to reapply for a Medicare card. So automatically a couple of months before you will receive it. Now, if a couple of months before you haven't received it, there's way for us to get that information for you. You could always call me at 954-667-4885, 954-667-4885, and we'll guide you on how to get that information, how to get the Medicare number, and to a certain extent, because once you have the Medicare, the next thing to do is put a Medicare Advantage plan with it. With the Medicare Advantage plan, there's so much benefits that you will be getting. And again, for this new generation, it may be a little bit complicated for you, but we are here to help you navigate through this system of healthcare in the United States. With the Medicare Advantage plan, first of all, the Medicare Advantage plan doesn't cost you a dime. And second of all, in terms of co-payments, there's basically little to no co-payments at all with Medicare Advantage plan. we are not here to promote any particular company or Medicare Advantage plan company, but basically is to give you the basic information that will help you guide you in making a decision on which plan to go with. Um, Once you start getting closer to 65, you're going to be receiving a lot of letters. You're going to be receiving a lot of phone calls. You have to be very careful about that because, first of all, once your information is available to everybody or available to someone, they have access to that information, or they could hold on to that information for a while, and God know what they will be doing or what they will try to do with your information. So you want to make sure, first of all, you find a reliable person, you find a reliable company, and make sure that your information does not fall in the wrong hand. That's number one. Number two, you have to. But let me first of all let me talk to um, those of you that's living in South Florida. First of all, that's probably the easiest part. Those of you that's living in South Florida, your best way of making sure your information doesn't fall in the wrong hand, contact me 954-667-4885. We will make sure that we align you with a reliable person. In most cases, if you decided you want to come join my center, you're welcome, and we will make sure not only that you get those added benefits that works with Medicare. For example, if you're eligible for Medicaid, we'll apply for Medicaid for you. If you're eligible for low income subsidy, which is going to help you with prescription drug, we'll apply for that for low income subsidy for you. If you're eligible for QMB is qualified Medicare benefits, we'll apply for that for you. So those are the things that you could, those are the benefits that you could use with Medicare so that it could enhance your benefits that you'll be receiving. Imagine that when we apply for Medicaid for you or low income subsidy, Medicaid, in terms, the purpose of Medicaid is to cover all the co-payment, co-insurance that you may have. For example, one of the best example for me is we had a gentleman went to see a specialist, and when he got there, they had a particular medication, or whether it was an injection that they were giving him at the specialist office. So after they gave him the injection, well, they checked for his Medicaid, and his Medicaid was not active. And upon his exit, they told him that, well, Mr. Joe, you have a co-payment of, I think it was $5 or $10, whatever it was. And his response is that, no, I don't. Gilbert told me that I don't have to pay anything. So they called me at that time, and I told him exactly that. No, 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 no. He's fully covered because as a practice, when someone comes to the office, we make sure that we apply for Medicaid, we apply for food stamp, we apply for low-income subsidies for them. And on that particular day, that particular patient had the manager of the office call me, and right away we worked things out and said, okay, don't worry about it. We'll file a new application for him for Medicaid, because apparently his Medicaid had expired, and we were not aware of it. We applied for Medicaid. Now, when you apply for Medicaid, you could do a 2 months retroactive. So anything that comes in that was there 2 months, then Medicaid will cover it. So that's what we did, and they were able to cover the copayment for him and charge Medicaid for that copayment, and that was taken care of. So um, you got to you have to pick a provider, or you have to pick a practice that, one, that's professional, one that knows what they're talking about, and they're very well versed in Medicare, Medicaid, those benefits. Otherwise, you will be missing out. Now, can I recommend a better place than my place? It's very hard. There's individual that's out there that they mean well to provide you the best benefit that they can, but the resource they may not have. We are able to train individual to provide those type of service, because me personally have been doing it for years, and so it's very easily for me to transfer that information to someone and train them, so we could continue the type of service. I was talking to an individual earlier, and was explaining to him that, for example, exercise that we have at the center, and his response is that the patients become accustomed of the type of service that we're providing. So they automatically, that's something that they expect. They expect to get the exercise. They expect to get all the specialists in one place. So you have to make sure, once you get to that age of 65, you got to look for a place that has everything in one place, so that you're not going from places to places to places to places. 305-945-1580, 305-945-1580. So this is my recommendation. So as soon you're about to turn 65, in fact, if you didn't take your retirement early, and you're just about to turn 65, and you're considering whether you're going to take the retirement benefits now or you're going to wait later, that's something that we need to discuss also. So if you take an early retirement, you know that in a couple of months before your effective month, that you'll be receiving the Medicare card. If you didn't take it early retirement, and let's say that it's not a consideration, 65, you're going to take it there, then, and apply for Medicare at the same time. That's not an issue, because that's much easier. You know that the premium Part B, which right now is $164.90, that is going to come directly from your Social Security benefits. Now, if you decide to not to take it, your retirement benefits, and now what's going to happen is that Medicare, if you decide to apply for Medicare Part A and Part B, remember Part B is $164.90. Medicare now will send you a bill. So every 3 months, they'll send you a bill for 3 months at a time, and you will have to pay that. Send them a check, write them a check, and for the amount of which equate to about 3 months of premiums. 305-945-1580, 305-945-1580. Listen, if I'm talking too fast, someone called me yesterday and said, wait a minute, you got to slow down when we give the phone number. So if I'm talking too fast, please let me know. And if you have a question, yes, we encourage you to call with your question right now at 305-945-1580, 305-945-1580. So, yes, so if you're 65 and you decided you need, you don't have any insurance from your job, you're going to take, you have to take you have to apply for Medicare, because if you don't apply for Medicare at the age at 65, there's a penalty for that, and the penalty is 10% of your benefits, your Social Security benefits a month. So if you were receiving, for example, $1,000, well, 10% of the 1,000 is 100. So then, instead of you receiving $1,000 a month, you'll be receiving $900 a month. And not counting now that if you have, well, obviously you will be eligible for Medicaid. If you're eligible for Medicaid, then 164.90, then that could be waived for you. But if you're not eligible for Medicaid, then you're looking at another 164.90 minus from the 900. Then you end up with what, seven and change. So it's very important that 3 months ahead of time, 3 months before you turn 65, you start applying for Medicare, excuse me. So that is very important, and it's something that I don't think we talked this year. We didn't talk much about it because there was so much information that to provide to you. So we kind of took a pause on that. So we promised to do better, and to bring you that information on a periodic on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis, so that we continue to refresh your memory. So when that time comes for you guys, that's just about to turn 65, so that you could remember the importance of doing it. Now, if you decided, well, I'm gonna take my retirement benefits at the age of full retirement age, as they call it, at the full retirement age, which is for some of you guys this year is about 66 and 10 months. Those of you that's born in 1960 is going to be 67. And so if you decide to wait, then you have two options. One, of course, yes, you have to apply for Medicare at the age of 65. Now, if you have a plan from an insurance from your job, then you could apply for Part A only. So when you apply for your full retirement benefits, then within that package, within that application, there's an area that actually, if you have Part B, if you don't have Part B, would you like to apply for it? So at that time, you could apply for Part B then, and of course, you'll have a different effective date. And then they will take the premium for Part B directly from your Social Security check. Now, the other option is if you decided, well, I have an insurance for my job. I am not going to take the Part B because I have to pay the $164.90. Just apply for Part A. As I just said, then when keep your insurance that you use your insurance that you have from your job. Now, remember, Part A covers you for hospital. Part A covers you for hospital. So, in the event that you have to go to the hospital, you could always use the Medicare and use your insurance from your job as a secondary to cover the hospital costs. So they'll definitely do that. And once you get in the hospital, they ask you for your Social Security number and your date of birth and your name. Once they put that in the system, all that information will come out. Whether you have Medicare, whether you have a Medicare Advantage plan, whether you have a Medicaid, so all that information will come up right away. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break and give us some time to breathe just a bit. And then when we come back, we're going to come back with more information regarding those benefits. You're listening to Source of Information. And, well, I'll see you in a little while.
No one else goes around No one can do the things you do. Yeah. Yes, no one else can touch my life like you do. Yes, I could search through all eternity, Lord. Yes, God. Yes, I'll find there is none like you. Ooh. Yes, lift it wherever you are. Lift it wherever you are. Yes, that's it, that's it. I could search through all eternity, eternity, and find eternity. There is no eternity like
305 945 1580. 305 945 1580. I definitely would like to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about the information that we're talking about for early retirement and Medicare. So we gave you three options if you want to apply for Medicare. The first option, you could if you already apply for early retirement automatically, you'll receive your card in the mail. So then you don't have to do anything because when they put the early retirement application, they already include Medicare in there for you without you realizing that. The other option is that if you decided to apply for Medicare at age of 65 and you're not going to take the retirement benefits, then what they'll do, they will bill you for the premium 3 months at a time. And when you receive it, just send a check in the mail and keep your benefits going. If you decided, well, you're gonna wait to receive your benefits, you're gonna wait for full retirement, then and you have an insurance, a health insurance from your job, then you could apply for Part A only, and upon full retirement, you could then apply for the Part B. So those are the three options that you have, but you must apply for Medicare when you reach the age of 65. There's no if and buts about it. Otherwise, you're going to get penalized. And surely we don't want that for you. So that's why we're coming out with this information. So we say that the second half that we will be talking about SSI. The average right now, at this moment, right now, the average Social Security income is it's at I believe it's $1,654. That's where the average is sitting there right now. And when we said the average is $654, now I don't want anyone to think that the fact that I said the average is 1,654, that you automatically going to receive that amount. Remember, Social Security is based on your working records. What I mean by that is if you've worked and whatever you contribute into Social Security, well, that's what they're going to utilize that to determine how much you will be getting paid. In other words, let's say, for example, well, basically they're going to use the last 35 years. Because I'm assuming that the vast majority of the people that I'm talking with, especially those that's about to go on retirement, and I'm talking about the people that was born in the 60s, even the 59 and the 58. Listen, I have a lot of friends that was born in 57, 58, 59. And we tend to, as we get older, we tend to get stuck in one area, and we don't grow. We don't grow, and when I mean it, I'm not talking about growing in terms of maturity. I'm talking about in our mind, we still visualize ourselves at a certain age, and then we stuck at that certain age until our body's starting telling us otherwise. But yes, I have a lot of friends that 57, 58, and those are people that's been living here for 30 plus years, if not more. Um, so when you take into consideration the last 35 years of their working history, that's what they're going to base their Social Security income on. I told you that I have a friend, and we were having a conversation, and she asked me what I do again, and I started to tell her. She said, "Well, I needed your advice." I said, "For you, of course." So I proceeded to direct her. She's not living in Florida; she's living out of state. So the benefits out of state is very much different than what you guys receiving in South Florida. South Florida, by far, you have the best benefits in terms of Medicare and yes, Medicare and Social Security. Social Security is a bit different because what I find out is that a state like California and New York, their Social Security benefit is much higher than those of you guys that's been living in South Florida. The reason for that is that you get paid more in places like Florida, Boston, places like those areas, California, because the cost of living is much higher there than it is down here. So if they basing the your social security benefits based on income, then of course those places pay a higher income. Yes, you have a much higher income. You're receiving a higher income from those places like California, Boston, New York, up north, than you are receiving down here. So that you definitely will find a difference in your Social Security benefits. Okay, um, and I think eventually, you know, New York and Miami or South Florida, they'll get much closer because as you see now, there's a lot of people from up north that's moving down here, and so the cost of living, hopefully, will not surpass New York, but yes, will start going up, and in some cases we start seeing it now. Um, so, not to get off topic, but you will find that yes, the places like Boston, um, New York, and up north, even California, the Social Security benefits is much higher than in Florida. I think the one of the show that we did before I went on vacation, we discussed that, and I had the I think the 10 top state, the top receive the top beneficiary from Social Security came from those three states that I mentioned. They were part of the top 10, and Florida was nowhere near there. So, um, so to get back to what I started to say is that remember that you have to work into Social Security uh, before you could receive that amount we're talking about. So, in other words, if you're someone that was receiving minimum wage, it's gonna base on the amount that you've been receiving. If your income is, if you are making 200,000, for example, then your Social Security benefit is gonna base on the $200,000 of income, especially if it was for the last 35 years of work history. So that's how it's going to base, and that's how they're going to determine your Social Security. 305-945-1580. 305-945-1580. Let me hear from you. We want to make sure the phone is working. So 305-945-1580. 305-945-1580. Please call us. Let us know that you are out there listening. And even if you have a question and you want to ask a question in Creole, you could call and ask a question in Creole, and I will translate for you. So we want to make sure that the other listeners are not left out of the loop. 305-945-1580. So yes, so we want to make sure that everybody is clear about the fact that they say the average recipient are receiving $1,654. That does not mean that you, and by the way, that chart, I think that chart is for that, especially that chart is for Florida. The chart that says the average recipient are receiving 1,654. So there's if you pull out the Medicaid eligibility chart for each state, it will have different numbers. Remember that Medicaid is a benefits that is state run. It's state run. For example, if you just moved to the United States from another country, and you move to Florida, well, it will take you 5 years before you'll be eligible to receive Medicaid. Whereas if you go to New York, you go to Boston, the same day you arrive, you'll be eligible to receive Medicaid. So it varies from state to state. The program varies from state to state. So be aware of that. Recently, we had a friend that got sick and came up here for treatment. And my first thought is, well, come to Florida. We'll be able to help you getting some benefits. But then I thought about it is that getting benefits like Medicaid, it will be a challenge for them. Now, however, since we're on the topic of Medicaid, when you have Medicaid, or if you were to come up here, well, let's stick with people that's up here. You could go in a hospital, and they will apply for what they call an emergency Medicaid for you. The emergency Medicaid will take care of the hospital bills. So while you're in the hospital, anything pertaining to your stay at the hospital and the service that you receive at the hospital, Medicaid will cover it. If you don't have any insurance, whether it's Obamacare, whether it's private insurance from your employer, they will apply for Medicaid for you, and Medicaid will cover the cost fully. However, now is when you come out, once you leave the hospital, that Medicaid no longer will cover anything outside of the hospital for you. So normally what the hospital does is they will send you back to your primary care. If you don't have a primary care, they will suggest that you find a primary care to do the follow-up from what the doctor prescribed you to do. A lot of cases, they usually send you to the doctor that was seeing you in the hospital. So they would refer you back to, he would refer himself back to, they would refer you to that doctor so he could follow the care for you. 305-945-1580, 305-945-1580. Let us hear from you regarding that. So, we did mention that we were going to talk about SSI. SSI is a benefits that I think we talk about it, um, and not as much as we should be. Because for a lot of people, you could use SSI as as a supplement, or you could just be receiving just SSI. Now, if you're using it as a supplement, anyone that's making less than $914 a month could apply for SSI and be eligible for it. Now, providing that, one, you are a U.S. citizen. Two, um, you have less than $2,000 in the bank as an individual, and $3,000 as a couple. Um, as a couple. So we have. I'm trying. Sorry. As a couple, it's $3,000 in the bank. Um, Hold on one second. Let me get to Dr. Samidas. For some reason, he's calling me, and if he has a question. If he has a question for me, maybe it's something that he could ask on air. So, nevertheless, yes. So, as with SSI by itself, once first of all, it's an application that we cannot take. We don't. All the application we're able to do it for you, but SSI, you have to get an interview an air interview with Social Security, and they will apply for SSI for you. Now, there's a few things you have to take in consideration when you're applying for SSI. One is your income. So depending on how much you make, if you, for example, if you're receiving Social Security and you surpass $914, even if you surpass it by a cent, 1 cent, you will not be eligible to receive SSI. However, if you're below first of all, the $914 is this year they started with that amount. So, in essence, it's new, and the amount was increased last year. Every time that you get increase, so there's a lot of numbers that they increase those numbers also. Like, for example, the amount that the eligibility amount for SSI, the eligibility amount for Medicaid. As we say, if we give you the last number of $1,654. So if we're applying for just some Q1, which is the last stage of Medicaid, Q1, which they will, if you're making $1,654, you'll be eligible for the state of Florida, to pay the premium for Part B for you. So all those numbers increase. It's in the number for SSI eligibility increases. So this year the amount increased to $914. Well, like I said, the other thing that you have to take in consideration, you do have to be a U.S. citizen to be eligible for SSI. You do have to, if you cannot leave the United States and spend more than 30 days outside of the United States. We're not talking about territories. You could go to any U.S. territories and spend the rest of your life there, and you will continue to receive your SSI check. However, the minute you set your foot outside the United States, outside its territories, And then you subject to, if you spend more than 30 days, you subject to, from the time that you spend more than the 30 days and till the time that they do your interview and realize that you've been out of the country for more than 30 days and you've been receiving checks since then. So all those checks, they're going to be asking you for a refund. And trust me, I've seen this and I've been to the Social Security office with quite a few people, and I get the call, help me. And normally you go in there, there's not much they could do. I remember the last time I went to Social Security, it was this old lady, and we went to the Pembroke Pines office, and she asked me to go. And normally this is the type of service that we reserve for people that's a member of the clinic. And for some reason, that particular day, I was pushed to do it, and we did it. And when we got there, what basically I did was ask them for. They were taking the whole amount from her, and if they don't have a way of getting the whole amount from you, what they're doing is holding back the entire amount of the SSI check until the full amount is paid. In some cases, if you have Social Security retirement benefits, they could go in there and take that money directly from your Social Security check. But if SSI is the only income, then no, they're unable to do that. So definitely you want to avoid, if you're going to go outside the country, make sure you stay for 29 days. On the 29th day, make sure you are on your way back. Listen, perfect example. And I'm just remember, similar thing happened to me when I went on vacation. I was supposed to come back on Friday. And when we got to the airport, after waiting, and the flight was canceled. So we had to wait the following day, which was Saturday, to come back. So imagine if the 30 days, if I was on SSI and my 30th day was on Friday, then the panic that was set in, because then I realized that, well, they're going to penalize me, which means they're going to take money back from me. And I'm going to get back on the 31st day. When I get back, what excuse do I have? Now, I'm wondering, and this is something that I'll definitely have to research. I'm wondering if you're in a situation like this, for example, it's no fault to your own, whether it's your flight was canceled, whether because your flight could be canceled because of bad weather. Your flight could be canceled because of mechanical failure. There's so many reasons why your flight could be canceled. But if you could provide the proof that this is not your fault, the question is whether they are going to take that into consideration and not penalize you. So that is something that we will look into and ask the question. Because if it's no fault to your own. And I'm not talking about those of you before. A lot of people that were getting penalized was the people that was going to Haiti and stay 3 months in Haiti and come back after 3 months. And I don't know whether it's because it was not explained to you properly. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. So, and that's why I usually tell everyone, listen, when you are being interviewed by Social Security or any other government office, or when you go to an interview for your citizenship, make sure someone speaks Creole or your language your native born language, that you could properly understand them. Otherwise, you'll be in a lot of trouble, and some of those troubles are very hard to get out of. 305-945-1580, 305-945-1580. Give us a call. We have about, I think, 3 minutes left. 3 or 4 minutes left. So let me hear from you. So, yes, SSI. Two ways you could use SSI. You could use as a supplement to your Social Security income. So the way that works is, let's say, for example, you are getting $600 from Social Security, then SSI will give you 300 to get you 314, so to get you to $914. If you are just getting SSI, then you have a greater chance, depending on all the variable meet criteria, then you will be getting 914, as close to it as possible. But if you have such variables like you have a whole life policy that have cash value, then they will take that into consideration. If you have a second house, for example, if you have a house, I don't think you're going to you would be qualified. But if there's some other income that's coming in and was not reported, or when you reported it, then you're not going to be eligible. One thing that I've that come across my path in the past, where husband and wife are receiving SSI, and one of them decided to go back to work without reporting it. So they will send you a report and say, okay, this is what you received for this this particular month, and this is the difference, and this is how much you need to pay back. So I know a lot of people think that, well, I could get over. No, you can't. Because all that information is going straight to Social Security. Just the same, they're the one that's processing that information. And, of course, Social Security and SSI are in the same office, same government, so it's coming from the same, not the same fund, but Social Security administered SSI. SSI is the federal government benefits. So I guess the time's up. So once that information comes there, so it cross path with one another, and they verify one another, and very easy for them to say, okay, this information doesn't match. This person need to issue. This person needs to issue us a refund because they're working. Well, guys, my time is up for this show, and it was a pleasure to be with you today. For those of you that's going to stick around next. We have some great information for you. Again, my name is Gilbert Frank, and you could reach me at 954-667-4885, 954-667-4885. I'll see you guys real soon. I love you guys. Bye-bye.
Open your heart. Open your heart. Open your heart. Then express your worship. Express your
chosen generation, we've been called for to show His excellence. Hey, all I require for life, God has given me.